Hello and welcome to the Dailies. The details of the new US-Russia peace plan dominated international headlines, prompting sharply divergent reactions. European leaders warned it edges Ukraine towards unacceptable concessions. Kyiv expressed cautious concern, and Moscow projected restrained satisfaction. Meanwhile, in Britain, a fresh scandal surrounding the COVID inquiry seized from front-page attention as revelations of toxic culture, leadership failures and alleged misconduct inside Downing Street reignited public anger and political infighting. We'll start in the US as American media framed the US-Russia peace plan as strongly favoring Russia and marking a sharp shift in American policy. Reports stressed the major concessions Ukraine would be forced to accept and its uneasy, cautious response. Analysts warned the plan risks weakening Ukraine and sidelining Europe. Newsweek examined President Trump's recent push for diplomacy on the Ukrainian front, saying the president's frustration with both sides of the conflict is quoted as motivation for his diplomacy. The paper also revealed the details of the plan. It proposes major concessions by Ukraine. And according to the piece, those include surrendering territory to Vladimir Putin, also accepting strict limits on its military, and also abandoning aspirations to join NATO, and also facilitating Russia's return to the G8. The report contends the plan, which developed with US and Russian input, faces strong opposition in Kyiv since territorial loss is a constitutional no-go. It concludes that such a plan would reshape Europe's security architecture as the terms favor Russia. Foreign policy argues that Ukraine is at a precarious moment as it considers a US-drafted 28-point peace framework that echoes many of Moscow's demands. Zelensky's willingness to work constructively surfaces just as his government is rocked by a major corruption scandal, undermining public trust and weakening his bargaining position. The analysis highlights that European allies are wary, seeing the deal as a win for Russia and a potential betrayal of Ukraine's sovereignty. The piece also suggests that Zelensky might feel compelled to compromise, yet notes the risk is of domestic backlash if he appears to capitulate. Not surprisingly, Ukrainian media reacted skeptically to the new US-Russia peace plan, warning it would force Ukraine into major concessions that echo Moscow's demands. Outlets frame the proposal as edging towards capitulation, even as Kyiv signals readiness to review the draft. Coverage highlights the gap between official diplomacy and public unease, stressing that any deal must safeguard Ukraine's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and security. The Kyiv Independent delivers a stark, unflinching critique of the peace plan, arguing it pushes Ukraine dangerously close to capitulation. The piece details how the proposal mirrors many of Moscow's core demands. It underscores Ukrainian officials' alarm at being sidelined in negotiations supposedly concerning their own future. Also, the analysis situates the plan within a broader geopolitical context, highlighting European frustration and Washington's urgency. The report reads as a warning: a settlement crafted without Kyiv risks undermining sovereignty rather than securing peace. Russian media also reacted somewhat cautiously to the new US-Russia peace plan, downplaying any breakthrough and stressing that Moscow's core demands remain unchanged. Even though the plan is widely seen as favoring Russia, the Kremlin maintains a restrained tone to project strength, preserve leverage, and avoid appearing dependent on US proposals. Commerçants conveys a sense of measured confidence inside Russia, as officials view the proposal as a long-awaited acknowledgement of their strategic demands and a sign that Washington is finally willing to negotiate on terms closer to the Kremlin's narrative. The piece frames the US's outreach as a geopolitical shift, noting that Moscow interprets Zelensky's readiness to work quickly as evidence of Ukrainian weakness and Western fatigue. Now, at the same time, the report reflects Russia's caution, highlighting the Kremlin's reluctance to appear overly eager. Overall, the piece captures Russia's belief that the diplomatic balance is tilting in its favor while maintaining a posture of controlled restraint. The Telegraph commented on the plan, framing Europe's reaction as central to the political shock surrounding Donald Trump's proposed Ukraine peace plan. The piece lays out what it calls a sweeping concessions granted to Russia and highlights how European governments, led by France, denounced the plan as a forced capitulation. They also accused Washington of sidelining allies and undermining the continent's security. The report also highlights the strain within Western ranks, noting Britain's conspicuous silence and Kyiv's frustration that its closest partners have not pushed back more forcefully. In the Middle East, after all the concern in Israel regarding the US selling F-35 fighter jets to Saudi Arabia and how it will impact Israel's military edge in the region, the Times of Israel reported on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's remarks as he brushed off the deal, saying the US will guarantee Israel's military edge. The report highlights Netanyahu's claims that the US Secretary of State assured him Israel's legally mandated qualitative military edge remains intact despite the sale. Also, the piece emphasizes the contradiction between political leaders' reassurances and the military's concerns that Israel's air superiority will be eroded. It also outlines that while the Saudi jets will reportedly be less advanced and take years to arrive, Israel's unique customized version gives it a distinct edge. The piece situates the sale within regional strategic anxieties and highlights the delicate diplomacy at work between Jerusalem and Washington. In the UK, British media reacted with near unanimous criticism to the COVID inquiry results, portraying Boris Johnson's government as slow, chaotic, and responsible for thousands of avoidable deaths. Coverage highlighted the inquiry's findings of a toxic Downing Street culture, flawed scientific communication, and repeated delays in imposing restrictions. Most outlets framed the report as a damning verdict on leadership failures and a call for urgent reform to prevent similar crises. The Independent presented a sharply critical portrait of Boris Johnson's government, arguing that dysfunction and infighting at 10 Downing Street directly contributed to avoidable deaths. The piece highlights the inquiry's findings that a week earlier lockdown could have saved thousands of lives, but was delayed amid confusion, poor leadership, and what investigators call a toxic and chaotic culture fostered by Dominic Cummings. The analysis depicts Johnson as indecisive and frequently overwhelmed by scientific evidence, while failures in communication, planning, and internal discipline compounded the crisis. The report underscores how personal rivalries and what it called misogynistic behavior undermined decision-making at the height of the pandemic. And we'll end with The Guardian, which reported on the record-breaking sale of Frida Kahlo's La Cama painting, offering a sharp look at both the artwork's historic significance and the shifting dynamics of the global art market. The piece highlights the painting's astonishing $54.7 million hammer price, the highest ever paid for a work by a female artist, while situating the achievement within Kahlo's enduring cultural impact. The report points to questions around cultural heritage and also market ethics, noting that the masterpiece of this stature rarely leaves Mexico. The piece underscores how Kahlo's legacy continues to reshape valuations and challenge long-standing gender disparities in the art world. That's it for today. Thanks for watching the Dailies only on Al Arabiya English.